Lighting is an incredible way to get more looks out of your space. Maybe you can't always get out to an exotic location or take viewers on an adventure, but sometimes all it takes is shifting the right light to completely change the mood, allowing you to tell a more visually compelling story.
Today I'm going to take you guys behind the curtain a little bit and show you how I actually light my videos. Now, this is a video that's been requested for quite some time, but I really haven't wanted to talk about it because I'm really anti-gear, anti-rules, because I feel like content creators have the really cool ability to kind of be writing the rules right now, and so many people are caught up in doing things the way they've been told to do them, despite the fact that they're not making traditional cinema. Like, if you're making content, do the things that content creators can do that people who make movies can't do. Talking about gear so much, I feel like puts you more in that trap, because you think you need to have this camera, this lens, these lights. You don't need any of that. And today I'm going to show you guys how all the videos you've been seeing have been made with pretty much nothing in terms of lighting. I don't want to say nothing, but I'm doing it out the mud, and it's because it truly is about the story. In 2025, image quality means less than it ever has. In fact, people see a high quality visual and it kind of turns them off because they're like, oh, this is probably a commercial, this might be AI, but they love seeing that raw video out of your phone. To be honest, this video was actually kind of inspired by a lot of creators that I like. I like a lot of the newer creators, people who are probably under 5,000 subscribers. And I watched a lot of them as they started to have their channels grow, decide, oh, now I want to make these more elaborate videos. I miss you, and I want you to get back to making videos. So that's why I'm sharing this with you today. Fog is thick and unpredictable, while haze is consistent and controlled. It allows you to elevate any boring space by adding depth and make light more visible. It can also smooth out harsh shadows and reduce contrast, creating a dreamy, moody, or nostalgic look depending on what you're going for. When I'm shooting in the same spaces all the time, it's just another way to take that same boring space and make it a little bit more exciting. You know, I have a love-hate relationship with haze. It's something that can really look cool. It's something that when people look at your video, sometimes they'll be like, wow, this seems very dreamy and film-like, and it doesn't have the contrast a lot of the modern cameras have. And that's cool. This haze machine I picked up literally from a church garage sale. However, as soon as I got it home, it broke. Like, literally, the next morning I turned it on and I was going to start filming this video, and the tube that actually goes from the motor to the container that actually holds the haze, that tube broke. I had to spend another $20 ordering a replacement tube so that I can actually get this thing running. And that's kind of the thing. Like, when you start buying all these different components, pieces, parts to make your videos better, sometimes they end up costing you more money and the return just isn't there. Like, do you notice that much of a difference? Like, I'm not saying it doesn't look better. I'm not saying it does. I'm just saying it's not that big of a difference. Like, it's not worth spending money on unless you come across a really good deal or you're using it for professional work. And I came across a good deal. Like, it's mostly for me, and that's okay. Like, if you need to do something for yourself in order to be excited to create, cool, but just don't go overboard, because at the end of the day, that haze machine is not getting me more views. It's not making my content better. It's not helping me speak better on camera. It just might look a little bit better if I can get you to click because I made a video you're actually interested in. One thing that you might miss when you're looking at getting a haze machine is that you really need some lights to shoot through that haze. Otherwise, you're not really gonna get that full effect that you're looking for. Check this out. All right, now, in this particular frame, what's really selling that haze, it's not just the fact that there's a haze machine, it's the light that's above my head. You see, when you don't have this, you're not really gonna get that volumetric lighting look. So yeah, haze is awesome, but if you don't have any lights to really shoot through it, you're not really going to get what you're going for. That's kind of the thing once you get into trying to make your image nicer and make your stuff more polished. You start to have to do way more than you were doing before. Like, I can't quickly set this up. This requires me to have to go and add that additional light, find the right position, and really make sure it's doing what I need to do before I can film. And if I'm doing all that every single time I film something, now it's just not as natural. Like, I had to do way too much to set this up for it to feel the same as it did when I just turned on the camera and hit record, which I think is a little bit more important than a couple of shafts of light. So I spend a lot of time on videos in the kitchen. And one thing that has always kind of driven me crazy is these under cabinet lights. The main thing is that I feel like these lights are too hot. Now, because we have the Haze in here, you can really see how much light is really coming off of this. So in order to really get better lighting, you know, one thing you can do is like cut down the light that you have coming through. And I mean, you can use anything. Sometimes I'll use something as simple as a paper towel to cut down the amount of light that's coming through. But in this case, I'm actually gonna be using some window tinting material to cover this up. I like my videos to look good, but I'm definitely not trying to stress myself out. Doing something like diffusing these lights, what that's actually gonna do for me is make it so I don't have to spend all that time being super meticulous about every single light and every placement when I'm shooting my videos. I can focus on the content, I can focus on the message. I'm not sitting there tinkering with lights. So final result, this room is much more evenly lit now that these two lights are completely cut down. So, I mean, this was all hot and washed out here. Now you can actually see the tile, you can see the outlines and everything now that that's been cut down. These two lights on this side of the room I can completely control, so that's not a big deal. This is lighting spaces, not faces. Like, there are some people who really get in there and they bring the lights and they make sure the shadows are carved out perfectly. And that's not me. I want my content to be a little bit more raw. So rather than trying to always light every single frame perfectly, I just light the room as best as I can. That way I don't have to make those adjustments. I can quickly pick up the microphone, start talking to you guys, and it's in the moment. You probably don't have this problem in your home where you have to, you know, manipulate lights, but maybe you do. Maybe there are some lights in your home that you can kind of set them in a way that they're always set up. You're not pulling lights out when it's time to film. You just hit the record button after you turn the lights on. There have been moments when I have gone out, recorded something, and I thought it was like the words were perfect. It was really what I was feeling in the moment, but the frame is not the frame I would have really chosen if I really tried to make that frame perfect. Your audience will forgive you if you have something worth saying. That's why we focus on storytelling. So the last time I made a video talking about how to shoot aesthetically, I said I don't use any lights. And since then, things have changed. Like I mentioned, I have my practicals, which are just like, you know, lamps all throughout the space. I have my little credit card lights, these little tiny, these guys. But since then, I have added a light on the patio, which are just some stage lights that I picked up. I'm not gonna have to set these lights up and tear them down. They're mainly just to bring up the ambience in the room so it's not as dark when I'm shooting during the daytime. These are the same old school lights that they have at your high school stage plays. You can get them for very, very cheap. In fact, these lights were actually about to be thrown away and they were just given to me. They're not color controlled. I can't go, you know, daylight and also tungsten. They don't have RGBs or any cool features. They are lights, and that is really all you need. Any light will work. Like my general theme throughout my lighting kit is as long as it turns on. And that applies to light bulbs, and it also applies to these old school stage lights. You really do not need a lot. You just need to point the lights in the right direction. So before you throw out any lights, you really have to ask yourself, does this light have any use? I'm talking Christmas lights, old lamps, broken stuff, construction lights. Anything that is a light can do what a light does. You should never think just because you got this one light, you're gonna be good. If you really look around this space, we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lights in one room. So when you go out and you buy that light on Amazon, you only have one. So remember, when it comes to lighting your home, quantity is just as important as quality. The bigger the space you're trying to light, the more lights you're gonna need. I'm in a pretty small apartment, but I don't have a ton of windows. But if you're fortunate to have a space that has a bunch of windows or you're filming outside, you're probably good. All right, so we've covered a lot of the lighting, but now I'm gonna tell you guys the top secret keys to my lighting setup. So I'm typically pretty close up on the lamps in my home. That's what I use to light myself. Every once in a while, I'll use one of these lights. But the other light I will use, if I need to have something a little bit more powerful, is one of these two things. These right here, my homemade lights. So these are pretty ugly, but they get the job done. I took a piece of plywood and then I have some Kino clips right here. I take my 9-inch tubes and I just go ahead and put them. Here, let me clip this on for a second. And I just go ahead and clip these right on here, and then I pull this piece of diffusion or a paper towel or whatever I need over it. Holds 4 different lights, and then I put a baby pin on the back so I can go ahead and mount it to my, I almost said tripod. I can go ahead and light it to my C-stand. So this light is great if I need colors, you know, RGB. It's got the full RGB spectrum, reds and greens and purples and blues and all that kind of stuff. And then there's times when I just need a powerful light to use during the daytime. And I use this little guy, which is 4 light bulbs inside of a USPS priority box with, again, a baby pin on the back. I'll take this piece of diffusion, put it over, and it gives me a pretty soft light. I can control it. I throw a little dimmer on it, and it's perfect. The main thing I'm going for with everything I do is ease of use, cheap costs, and like kind of being good enough. Like I really do not stress myself out about all those little things. And I think this is a little thing. There's no real reason for me to have nicer gear unless I'm like leaving the house and I need something that's a little bit more portable and a little bit nicer for that. But for the stuff I'm shooting right now, if I'm being honest with myself, like what I actually need, these are enough. There will maybe one day come a time when I need to upgrade my kit. I'm traveling a little bit more, and obviously I don't want to be taking USPS boxes around that are going to fall apart every time I pack them up. So in that case, it won't work. But for now, like starting out, I would say I'm starting out. That's enough. Don't get lost in investing in all of this stuff. And if you are a little bit handy, you can kind of create exactly what you need. These lights are exactly what I need. I was able to put this together pretty easily. In fact, when I went to Home Depot, they actually cut these wood planks for me, so I didn't even have to cut those. All I had to do was attach the baby pin to them. Viewers aren't paying attention to all the elements that are happening behind the camera. All they're looking at is the image, and they don't really care how it was created. This is enough. And if I never showed it to you, you would have no idea this is how I'm lighting my videos. I recently picked up this monitor because I wanted something that would help me to be able to film my videos better. I like to film aesthetic images. I like my stuff to look really polished, but I don't just focus on that. I do really try to focus on the storytelling aspect, but the visual for me is a component that I like to add to the actual creation of my projects. And there's a bunch of creators that I've really enjoyed lately who at some point decided that they wanted to stop doing what they were doing and start trying to film in this way. And it's a pattern that I've seen way too often where creators will be doing something, it'll be working out great, and then they decide in their minds they want to upgrade their quality. They think that what they're making is not good enough for their audience. I was going to do a video explaining how this monitor helps me to film aesthetic images, but what I think is more valuable is to actually explain that getting a monitor and mounting it to my camera actually makes creating easier. And what a lot of these other creators are doing is something that's actually making what they're doing more challenging. You have forever to get really good at creating nice images. I slowly implement that into my process. I don't just go from 0 to 100 the next day. That only comes from time, repetition, years, experience, skill, and you'll get there. But you don't have to make this massive creative leap because you feel pressured to. If these different pieces of your kit are not making your life easier, then what is the point? That's why I'm always plugging the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. It's not because it's the best camera in the world, it's the best image quality you can get. No, it's because it takes out all of the barriers that you could possibly have, all the reasons that will stop you from creating. The more cumbersome creating is, the more difficult creating is, the less likely you are to do it. And I want you to create. I want you to make the stuff you want to make. I want you to be able to have a library of content, even if it doesn't look the way you want it to look today, because at some point it will exist. And that kind of is all that matters. I'm watching your videos because I like you. I'm not watching them because the visuals are perfect or the sound is perfect or I'm always learning something amazing or because you're always funny or you're always at some super cool place. Like, I just like you. If making that next purchase is going to help you to make the stuff that you really want to make, and it's going to make your process easier and it's going to allow you to drop a new video more frequently, then cool. But if it's not going to do that, if it's only going to be because you think it's going to impress me, then you're wrong. Because I think the work you've been making up until now is good enough. So with that said, my name is Aaron. I make content on my life as a recently divorced single dad and creative entrepreneur. If you want to continue on this journey with me, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.